Everybody. Welcome back to the Semi Professional Academic Podcast. As always, I'm your host with the most unread books on my bookshelf, Jacob Watts. And joining me today is the absolute hilarious, iconic, my personal savior of general chemistry, Allison Reardon.
Thank you for having me, Jacob. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, Allison, thank you so much for coming on the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I don't have much planned. I woke up to some thunder and lightning outside, so
Oh,
you know, that was a bit of a rough start, but I'm doing great.
that's good. Now, one weird thing about me is I love going to sleep when it's like storming and like raining.
Yeah,
But
I being from the Midwest, I love standing out in back at home, standing out in like my garage and like watching thunderstorms. But I can't do that much here because I'm just in an apartment. So
yeah, you die when you do that.
yeah, yeah.
Well, hopefully the weather starts clearing up a little bit over there. It was raining today and I had to get out and like be an adult because, at the time of
You were
film,
already on the move.
I'm
This is pretty early.
no, I hate it. I'm very much like a midnight oil burner. Like I would much rather sleep in and just like work late, but that just does not go
Mhm.
well, especially when you're in a PhD program. So you're just like, time to go.
Oh yeah, I totally get that. I can't really I've never been one to pull all-nighters, not even in college, but nowadays if I'm only pulling like 2 or 3 hour nights of sleep or whatever, it's not pretty the next morning.
No. Oh, but before we get too far away from it, Allison, would you mind just giving a little bit of background information on yourself for our audience?
Yeah, yeah. So hi, my name is Allison Reardon. I am a fourth year graduate student currently at Vanderbilt University in their chemistry program. So I'm going for my PhD.
Woo!
Woohoo. Um, it's a technically a 5 year program. I think I have about a little over a year left, hopefully. But yeah, and I met Jacob at undergrad at Hanover College. I was actually his tutor in general chemistry. So Jacob was 1 year behind me in school. And you guys were the class that made me realize that I actually like teaching. So I thank you for that because you guys made me feel really comfortable. And that I was actually getting through to you guys and getting those light bulb moments. So,
I I want everyone to know that I only entertained doing more chemistry because Allison really helped so much with being a study group leader for Gen Chem, which is intro chem, like your first year of chemistry. And I'm gonna tell this story because I thought about this like so.
okay.
And don't get me wrong, mad respect and love to Allison, like 100% Allison's that girl. But I will say though, like it was a little shady that when I became a tutor, when we were getting trained on how to like handle like a student in distress, two of the examples given were two of my reactions in chemistry in Allison's study group to an exam, and I was just like, okay, this feels a little pointed. This feels
Oh no.
pointed. And Allison's like, I didn't mean it, but like it was just such a good example.
I forgot about a lot of that stuff. And weirdly, I've been kind of reminiscing on things lately, and I'm just like, I forgot a lot of that stuff at Hanover. Weirdly enough, like all this pre-COVID stuff, like I don't know, it's all coming back to me all of a sudden.
I think about like, because I know like like is a long time, but like I don't know if it was just the pandemic or what, but like it feels like four entire different lifetimes.
Yeah. I totally get that. Well, weirdly enough, I was class of 2020. Um, we that was rough. We didn't have a graduation. We technically had a ceremony in like August or something, but I had already moved to Nashville for grad school, and I was like, I'm not going back for one weekend just like to walk across the stage. I
No.
mean, at that point I knew I was like, I'll walk for my PhD, but at this point I have to stay in Nashville and start my first year of grad school.
Yeah. And I don't know, like, granted, like, it wasn't me, but were you at least like, oh, like at least they were trying to do something? Or was it kind of like a really like, or did it like add insult to injury?
I have a lot of feelings about this. And I well, I think what ended up happening was that they would set a date for graduation, and then like I think I could make that whatever the first weekend was, and then because the pandemic was still like kind of out of control and people still didn't know what to expect starting that fall semester, it just got like pushed back even further. And I think I was kind of just like, well, why would you set a deadline in the first place if you're just going to cancel it like a week or two before? That was one of the things where I was like, okay, I at that point have lost interest in even coming back for that. But I do like Hanover as an institution is interesting. I haven't been back since. I don't care to go back anytime soon, but if I have friends who will be there, then I'll be like, okay, I'll go back. But it'll be a minute.
I honestly understandable. And like, I've had a lot of reasons to go back because I had like, because, like we were in Greek life, so we had like a lot of friends. And SIG had like the 150th anniversary like a while back.
Oh
And
yeah.
then it was like our house dad and our chefs like last year. So then like I went back. And for those of you who aren't listening, like again, restating, Allison graduated in 2020. I graduated in 2021. It is now the beginning of 2024, and just since then, it's changed so much. Like I feel like I don't know if it's just because I'm older, but like the culture and the vibes are just different.
hmm I'm not gonna lie, I felt really bad for you guys that were still there for the year of 2020 to 2021. I felt like I kind of graduating in 2020, I was like, well, at least I'm out. Like, and I can start to live my life a little bit more. But I know I kept up with some sorority sisters, of course, and it didn't seem like that great of a time.
No, girl, it it was awful. Like it was so bad. And like I hate saying that because like like people were dying and like that's like such
Oh,
like
yes, yeah.
it's like such a selfish thing, but like I mean just everyone, like the faculty, the staff, the students, like everyone's just like mental health was awful because we were expected to operate like normal and do XYZ, but not reap any benefits from doing XYZ.
Oh, geez. So, like, you couldn't go out and like go out to a bar or something, or like enjoy yourself that way, or um, I assume there wasn't any much in terms of like extracurricular stuff that you could actually meet up for either.
Oh no.
Or
Oh girl, like the first week of classes, and like I don't know if like a lot of people know this, but someone called in that there was like a party at one of the houses, not like a Garrett Street house,
Mhm.
and like without seeing proof, like the administration sent them emails saying you are kicked off campus, you will not be coming back.
Oh my God.
And then come to find out, like nothing really happened. They were just like everyone who was living there was just like playing music, and like there was no like
Jeez.
so like it made it very clear that
They
oh
weren't going to tolerate anything, but even then they would just like jump to conclusions right away.
yeah, so everyone, which like I understand because especially like at that early of the year, like they didn't know where this was going, and they had just made the executive decision to have everything in person.
Mhm.
So I understand like why they were like, I mean, like I think like they overreacted, but I understand why they did. But when that's kind of like, and as you know, like Hanover was really focused on like a community-based school, like and like a very social school, like with everybody. So when that element's gone, what are we doing here?
I mean, because I already in college, like again, Hanover, when I was there, it was like 1,200 people on campus. Like Well, I guess not even on campus because we had a big commuter population actually. But I mean, I always felt like I was in like this sort of bubble at Hanover, um, where I swear to God, the only way I got news was through Twitter. Like,
Oh,
um,
I miss Twitter when it was good. I miss
yeah,
like 2015 to 2019 Twitter was like peak Twitter.
yes, it really was. I after moving here, like I've had some like conversations with some people, and I've been like, oh yeah, I used to be pretty funny on Twitter, in my opinion. But and then I don't know if it was like senior year, just being stressful, and then the pandemic hit or what, but then I just completely like dropped off from Twitter. I don't know what it was, but used to use it a lot more. I still call it Twitter, by the way, even though I guess it's technically X,
X
but
is stupid.
that's how everybody knows it.
Like X is stupid. Like it's I'm not taking advice. I'm not listening to this is going to be a hot take, so like I'm sorry. Allison does not have these views that have that I'm going to say this. So I just want to say that I'm really not in the mood to entertain a man who bought a social media website to name it X when that man literally put the number 12 in his kid's name. He should not be allowed to name things. I'm not going to respect his opinion. Everyone has an opinion. Not every opinion needs to be heard. And I live by that.
I agree. I'll get on that train. Yeah.
I didn't want to make Allison co-sign a thing that she hadn't even heard yet.
Thank you. Thank you. No, it's pretty sound thinking in my opinion. So,
But no, I remember because I used to like follow you on Twitter, and I think I still do. I don't know. Like I've kind of fell off a little bit there, but I forget who I was talking about this with, but like I was like going through like my old tweets, and I was just like, wait, I was funny.
yes.
What happened? And then I think I hopped off after my Twitter got me in trouble.
Oh. Oh my gosh. That brings back a lot of memories though, that story. I don't know if maybe you were just starting college at the time,
Are,
but
are you talking about the annual
the like fine arts festival or something.
by like certain members who are
Yes. Was that when you were starting?
yeah, like I mean
Okay.
that happened every year.
Every year? Oh my God. Where was I?
I don't know.
Jesus.
Like really feel like Hanover College is just like Glee on reruns. Like you're just like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. Oof. Big yikes.
Yeah. So, that's that story. Allison, like we kind of talked about it, but like what kind of inspired might not be the right word, but like motivated you to go to Hanover College and pursue studying chemistry? Like, let's just start there.
Yeah. So I had an interesting, like, I did not go in thinking that chemistry might be my thing. I went in as most science people go in originally as I thought it was going to be pre-med. Like,
Same.
um, oh my gosh. And then, I started taking biology and chemistry, and I was like, yeah, everything's going pretty good. And then, of course, my advisor was Craig Phillip. And like, I really, I really liked him as an advisor because he was transparent with me. Like, he was like, I'm not going to try and hide anything from you. This is how the real world is. And I was like, you know what? I actually really admire that. Thank you for telling me that. So I was talking with him and he was like, where do you think you're gonna like what do you want to do in life? And I was like, well, I'm not sure. I really love forensics. And to this day, I still love forensics. Like I wouldn't mind if I had like eventually some job in that career. But I told him I was like, maybe I'll go pre-med. And he looked at me and he was like, Allison, if you have not decided whether or not you want to be like pre-med or go to like med school at this point, you're not going to med school. Weirdly enough, that's what I needed to hear. So from that point on, he was very much like, I think if you want to pursue forensics, you should go pursue, like, you should further your career in graduate school with your and try to get your PhD in analytical chemistry. And then based off of that, if you still like forensics, then by all means, like, go for a career in that science. Again, it was weirdly enough advice that I needed to hear, but it wasn't like it put me down or anything in terms of like being sad. Like, again, I was not dead set on going to med school, and I saw the amount of stress that it put on students in order to study for the freaking MCAT. And I was like, if I can have a slightly less stressful time going like the grad school route, then yeah, I'll do that. And then like it was also interesting because at the time, we only had, like, my freshman year, we only had a Bachelor of Arts in chemistry. We didn't have a Bachelor of Science yet. And that's when Craig Phillip was like, yeah, we're actually getting this program. He was telling me about this at the end of my freshman year, before I started sophomore year. He's like, I think you would do really well if you went for a Bachelor of Science. And so, of course, I think that's like an extra semester of like physics, calculus, like all this other stuff. And you had to take a lot more chemistry classes because, that difference between a BA and a BS was like, basically, if you're going to grad school, like, which tier grad school do you want to get into? Um, if you go for a Bachelor of Arts, you might go to maybe not like an R1 research facility or something like that if that's what you want to go for. And I knew like Vanderbilt was always my dream school. And I was just like, well, if I can get in there, that would be really cool. So I was like, okay, Bachelor of Science. And then that was kind of what shaped the rest of my undergrad career. And I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't like I don't live and breathe chemistry. Like I have to have a set distinction. Like I have to like chemistry is for like work, career. I have a life outside of that, and I don't like talking too much about my science, weirdly enough. I like to pursue other passions. Like oh my gosh, we took um a few classical studies classes together
Intro to
in college.
archaeology.
Oh my God, Sean's class. I freaking loved that class. And weirdly enough, well, my sophomore year, which was, of course, the year you met me, and like that was my toughest year of undergrad ever. Just with the class load, like all the social stuff that was happening. We had a lot of beef in the sorority that year. Like it was absolutely horrible. And that definitely took a toll on my mental health. And oh my gosh. But having that class that year was such I that was one of the like bright spots in my day was to show up to Sean's class. Like what was it again? Intro to archaeology or something. Like
Yeah.
to this day, I'll still go around and like one of my friends, I don't know if she was what city she was visiting, but she was visiting a city in the South, and she knew I had like I eventually ended up graduating with a minor in classical studies. Like I love that stuff. So she ended up sending me a few pictures, like walking around the downtown area of whatever city she was in, and she was just sending me like pictures of these like official buildings or whatever, or these federal buildings. I don't know. And she's like, Allison, what kind of columns are these?
Oh
I
my
was
God.
like, oh, those are Doric columns, those are Ionic columns, those are Corinthian columns. I've got you. I could answer every single one of them. I was like, yes, my classical studies minor is like it's kind of becoming useful, but I enjoyed it. That's why I chose to minor in it. And like I still keep up with like Miriam Pittenger on Facebook, and I love seeing her posts.
Oh, I love
She was
her.
I love her so much.
Oh, what did I have? She taught a language. What did she teach? I'm trying to think.
Latin
Latin,
and
yeah.
Greek, I think.
I took introductory to Latin with her, and first off, like she's great, but like Latin, I'm just like, why am I challenging myself here? I don't need this. Like I was like that. I was that very much pre-med be like, oh, I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna rock this thing. Like they're never gonna see anything like it. And I was half correct. They've never seen anything like me before. Rock it.
Oh
But
my God.
I
I also took Latin and it was both semesters with her. Like had an absolute freaking blast. Like I I knew I didn't want to take like Spanish in college because I didn't have a great experience in high school with Spanish. Like I took it like 8th grade through 11th grade, and my 8th grade and 11th grade teachers were awesome, but my freshman and sophomore year teachers in high school for Spanish, I I learned nothing. Um, and then by the time I got to have a really great Spanish teacher my junior year, she realized that we were all like, she had to play catch up with us for like 2 years of material, with also learning the whole like Spanish 4 like course as well. So that wasn't great. And because of that experience, I was like, you know what? Well, I am going into sciences. Maybe Latin will help out a little bit. And I do not regret my decision.
That's good. And I think you bring up like a really good point is like because I know for me, like part of the reason why I loved Hanover was the fact that like you got to do like the science that like you wanted to do, like for example, like
Mhm,
for us. But we also had like that freedom and opportunity to take other classes because I know like for me, like I majored in biology, I did the BS, but I also like minored in English because I loved that. I pretty much
mhm.
like I was this close to getting a minor in Dr. Eden as I was as I was going to call her, like my minor in Dr. Melissa Eden because all but one class I took with her
Mhm.
for my English minor. And then the other one I took with D. Gertz, which I do not regret. I love Dr. Gertz with my whole heart. Like she's fantastic.
I never took any classes with her, but I did take a class my freshman year with Melissa Eden, and that's when I found out that I wasn't great at writing, but she made me so much better at writing.
Yeah.
I took Welcome to Bollywood.
I love that class so hard. I
You you should have seen me. I watched so many Bollywood movies like afterwards, like in my free time, just sitting in my dorm. Like I have such an appreciation for those movies. Oh my gosh.
I do too. I love
Um,
them so much. I love Om Shanti Om with like my whole heart. I love, and then like to me, it's so great because no one who doesn't, people who don't watch Bollywood movies is gonna have no idea what's going on for these next 2 minutes. But I'm so sorry, you're gonna have to deal with it because it's a reference to like so many other great Bollywood movies who watch the course. I'm just like, this is amazing, and like
yes.
I I'm so annoying as a person. I love dance numbers. I love musicals. I love the breakdown. So and then like I love references to other things. Like I love callbacks. So, like the fact that like it does all of that in like one movie. I'm just like, how is this not like the greatest movie of all time? Like why are
Yeah.
we painting like The Godfather and Psycho when this is right here?
Like my favorite Bollywood film that I watched like that whole year is called Doom 2, but it's like a DH. You watched it?
Yes.
Okay. Oh my God. I wrote an amazing paper on that movie. Melissa Eden, I think at the end of the semester was like, I think you should think about being an English major. And I was like, oh my God. I thank you so much. I know I'm set for science, but like this means the world that you're telling me this. And I actually sat my family members down like when I went home for Christmas that year, and I made them watch Doom 2 with me. And they actually really liked it. My dad actually was like, this is pretty cool.
It was such a great course. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's I will say though, like obviously, like you're very good at chemistry, but you have such like a good like you're such a well-rounded student in regards to like academic prowess. Because like you were very good in math as well, and like I know there's chemistry in math, but just like math as well. Like you're very good at English and classical studies. So like, were you ever joking like with your advisor or with yourself to be like when like say you had like a really rough lecture in like P Chem or whatever. You're like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm going to English. Like this is exhausting. This is getting on my nerves.
I I actually never really had that thought just because like of course my best friend in college, like Cecily, like she's an English major, like and then of course like education and everything. And I saw all the stuff she had to do in terms of the English major, and I was like, I don't think I could do that. Like all the stuff you had to read, like I feel like I'm not a really fast reader. So, but like she could get through stuff like so freaking quickly. And I was just like, I weirdly enough, I don't think I could like I know that's not my strong suit, but I can appreciate it so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, no, I'm very much the same. Like it takes me a minute to read it and but I love it and like I know for me because like, since I minored in English like with bio like say if like Gall was pissing me off that one day and be like, you know, I'm gonna fucking major in English because I'm tired of your ass. Like go over here. And it's not that like I thought it would be easier. It's just the thought that I would rather put myself through so much more hoops to prove a point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can
No.
honestly say I might have had those thoughts, but I definitely did not voice them.
Oh no.
Like,
Allison's a professional.
I think if I ever said that, I'd be like, oh my God. Like I can't believe I just said that. And then like think about it for like the rest of my life.
See,
I
no,
don't know.
see, I unfortunately voiced them, but then like the thoughts don't come until like an hour later. Be like, oh, I just like fully said that with like no remorse. Like, what am I doing?
No, I overthink a lot of conversations that I have, even day to day. And I'm just like, man, I need to distract myself with something else just to get that out of my head because I cannot keep doing this to myself. Oh
Do,
man.
do you ever like have like arguments or conversations like by yourself and be
Yes.
like what you should have said or like what you would have said?
Yep.
I do that all
Because
the
I'm
time.
I'm not that witty. You're very witty. Like my sister, like a lot of my friends are witty, but it like takes me a second to think of like maybe a good comeback, and then I'm like, crap, that's what I should have said.
I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit. Like I feel like you're a very witty person. Like
Maybe it's just the people that I know I'm like are just on a complete other level. Like,
maybe you're just like such like a humble person that like and like you're down to earth that like you I don't know. I feel like you're really underestimating like your like wittiness and comebacks because like I remember sometimes in like art and archaeology, for example, like you had me rolling with some of the shit you were saying. Like it was so funny and like so quick-witted.
oh well, thank you. Oh my God.
So Allison, kind of switching gears, but when and I know you said like Vanderbilt was like your dream school, but when you were on like the application like interview cycle process, whatever we want to call it, like what was going through your mind when you were like looking for programs, advisors, schools, and all that?
Yeah. So when I was looking for programs, like of course I ended up going into analytical chemistry. I was just looking for like top tier programs that were like pretty close still to my home in Cincinnati, like where it wouldn't be like completely insane just to drive home like at some point. But oh my gosh, I well, because part of the advice that Dr. Phillip gave me was to look for graduate schools in a place where you might want to end up living one day. And I was like, you know what, that's great advice. And so I was like, of course, Vanderbilt has always been on my mind. Like I wanted to go there for undergrad, but I knew with like my public school background, there was no way I was going to get to Vanderbilt as an undergrad. So at least I was very real with myself in that time. But then I was like, you know what? I'll apply for grad school. I ended up applying to like Purdue, IU, University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, and then weirdly enough, Georgia Tech. I was like, yeah, let's try out Atlanta. So I applied to a few other schools too. But like those five schools are the ones I ended up like getting accepted into, and I got accepted into them pretty fast. I think the major deadline was like sometime early in December. And I think I heard back from at least one of my schools before we even left for Christmas break. And I was just like, oh my God, like I am going to go to grad school. Like, this is so freaking cool.
Like you really just like killed it. And like I will like go through Allison's like track like record, whatever we want to call it, like in undergrad. Study group leader since sophomore year, lead tutor of Hanover College for 2 years, in a sorority, in the American Chemical Society, presentations, conferences, research, stellar GPA, involved on campus, great recommendation letters. Like Allison killed the game.
I, you know, I look back on it and I think at the time I didn't realize how like everything that I was actually like doing was going to end up like working in my favor. I think I end up downplaying a lot of what I do. And that's something that I've kind of struggled with just in terms of like being able to brag about myself. Like I recently redid my CV, my curriculum vitae. For those who aren't familiar with that, that's basically your entire career. Well, for me, in terms of like chemistry, like awards, honors, papers, presentations at conferences, REU, stuff like that. But I was recently like updating it, and I was trying to put like kind of brag about some of the stuff that I did in since grad school. And I was like, this is really tough for me because I feel like I just I've been working on it, but I'm trying to like get myself out of that mental state where yes, it is okay to brag about yourself. Like you're doing great things. Sorry to derail, but I figured maybe some other people would relate to that.
Girl,
Uh,
girl, you've listened to this show. Like it's more unlikely that we are actually on the rails than we are derailed. And like what you said is like so true. And I don't know, I'm obsessed with me, so it was never been a problem for me. But
I
I,
love that. I freaking love that. Oh my God, you freaking own it.
yeah,
Like I wish to be like that.
but like I think that's a very common thing for a lot of academics. And I feel like I don't know, especially academics who are very young in their career, especially grad students as well. And it's almost like I think it comes from this place where we don't want to be seen as arrogant
Mhm.
or cocky or whatever, but then like we take it too far and then we're just like, oh no, like I feel like I honestly feel like Allison would maybe like invent the cure to cancer and then call it be like, I haven't really done anything useful. I really feel like that'd be you because that is like I don't know, it's like almost like not to read you or anything, but it's almost like to a detriment because you are so talented, so hardworking, and just such like a charismatic person. And like I just don't see like how I mean like I and again like I'm not trying to like invalidate it, but like it's just mind-boggling to me that you don't see that. And like other people like you don't see that like about themselves.
Yeah, I think one of the things that kind of contributes to that, especially like when I said earlier, like sometimes I just don't like talking about the science that I do outside of work or whatever. I think sometimes I, a lot of my family members and friends, like they're not in the field of science. And so when they ask me what I do, I get all awkward and I'm like, well, I'm gonna try and explain it the best I can, but I don't want to make it sound like I'm sounding condescending to them. Like I want them to understand sort of what I'm doing, but I never want to come off as like this is what I'm doing and then never explain it fully to them. Like a know-it-all. I don't want to come off as a know-it-all ever. That's I those are the type of people that like you will see these people in grad school as well as undergrad, but like those are the kind of people that I kind of detest.
Yeah. And
And I never want to come off like that. So I think it's a fear of maybe coming off like that
yeah.
that keeps me dialed back.
Yeah. And I think that's I think that's a very valid concern. I mean, like, I don't think like you have anything to worry about. Like, I've never thought that about you, if that helps at all.
Cool. That yeah, that definitely helps.
But yeah, like, I feel like that's a very real thing. Because I mean, and I won't name names, but like you and I both have like run into those like in undergrads as well as like professionals. And I'm just like, I like hate you just like a little bit. And like, I'm
Yeah.
that type of person that like is obsessed with themselves, but like realizes that like I'm not the smartest person in the room.
Yeah, yeah.
And
You're real. Like you can be real with yourself.
yeah, like there'll be times to be like, wow, I bombed that. I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing. But like, I think it stems from this place where, because on like an additional to academics, and I don't know, Allison, maybe you completely disagree with this. I don't know, but I feel like a lot of times we have to like, we feel like we have to be given like out like permission to like be like feel good about things at times, just because like that's like how unfortunately academia works sometimes. And I think that's stupid. So I was just like, you know what? I'm going to think I'm doing great all the time. Am I doing the best? Absolutely not. And there are times when I'm doing horrible, yes, but I'm still great and I love me. And I think that I feel like every student should be in person, should be their own favorite person. Like I feel like you should be
Mhm.
your own number one fan.
Oh yeah, yeah. And that's definitely something that I'm working on, but like for the most part I'm like, okay, with myself I'm like, yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Like I starting sorry, I'm thinking of something else in my head when you're saying like, oh, she had a really good GPA. I was like going on like some of these college visits. Um like and for a chemistry program it was really cool because they would kind of like wine and dine you. It wasn't as much an interview as it was you're accepted into the program and we want you here, so how can we get you here? But like when talking with all these other students who were also accepted like on the same visit weekend, I quickly realized that I was probably the one with the lowest GPA out of all of them because they all had like, oh, 3.9 or 3.8. I think I ended undergrad with like a 3.6 something. And I was really proud of that because I knew what that was at Hanover.
I don't mean to cut you off, but I think it's important to know for the undergrads, and as someone who's done a master's at a public school, who's doing their PhD at a public school, and has like taught undergrad courses. And again, not saying that one degree is like better than the other, but the curriculum was just harder at Hanover. It just was. The expectations were higher. You were just harshly, there were stricter deadlines. Like we learned so much more. Like I like content lecture wise, like that kind of stuff. And like grad school is different because you have like projects and it's application. But like just as far as like learning content, significantly harder for me at Hanover than in either of my graduate school programs. Significantly harder.
Yeah, and I totally get it because we had some pretty great professors that were definitely like trying to push us to be the best that we could be. But at times it was like, man, I wish you wouldn't push me so much
Yeah.
because I can only take so much. Can I get a little bit of leeway? Like,
It's like
oh
that
man.
meme where it's like when I went to a challenging school to be challenged and now I'm being challenged. Like and don't get me wrong, like this may be like just like me being upset with myself, but like I don't know, like I just feel like because I went to Hanover, I know I can handle the workload and requirements at grad school.
Yeah. Like going to grad school, I feel so much better about life. And I mean, Hanover is very different from like going from Hanover in kind of middle of nowhere, Indiana to Vanderbilt in Nashville. Like that's a big change. There's multiple factors that are changing there, but I honestly feel so much better about life here. Like I don't know necessarily if easier, like grad school is easy. No, it's not. But
No, grad school is never
I,
easy. I want to make that
oh
very,
yeah.
I hope I didn't like say that wrong. Grad school is not easy. Like,
But for some reason, it just I I didn't feel as stressed about things. Like in grad school, like, yeah, for my first 2 years, I still had to take grad school classes. And then eventually I had enough credits to where I was just doing research or actually TAing specific classes. But I think I felt that I didn't have to push myself as much as I was doing in undergrad. Gosh, I don't know what exactly it was. Maybe I felt like I had more freedom. Oh my gosh, I don't know.
I know for me,
I
it felt like I knew the anxiety wasn't as much there as to what to do because I knew what was expected of me to do.
mhm.
Just the only anxiety was I doing it correct? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
whereas like in undergrad, I was like, am I doing this correct? I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. And now, like in grad school, like I kind of have that expectation. Like I'm here to grow as a scientist. I'm here to do research. I'm here to teach. I'm here to take classes. And I'm here to like do it well. I'm here to mentor students. Like I have 4 undergrads right now that I'm mentoring right now. And
that's awesome.
I'm exhausted all the time. So like I want to make it clear, like it's not like going to Hanover made grad school easy. Like it didn't, but like the it wasn't a shock to the system.
Okay, yeah, yeah, because we were so used to it already that yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
No. Hanover hire me again and don't threaten to expel me again. I'm kidding. I was never like threatened to get expelled. That was never brought up. But like I say that sometimes just to sound because it sounds more dramatic.
Oh my gosh.
Um,
Oh man.
but Allison, I do kind of have a question, and like I won't ask you too much details about your research because I don't want to make you like you uncomfortable by any means. But now that like you're in your 4th year of your PhD program, have you thought about what you want to do afterwards once you defend? I know that could be a loaded question, so do not.
No, no, I get it all the time. No, I totally fine. And I can speak a little bit to my research. I just again, I'm gonna use some big jargon. So just for a little bit of background, I joined John McLean's research group at Vanderbilt, and we are primarily an ion mobility mass spectrometry research group. So, but like the basis for the research is the field of mass spectrometry. It's a way that you can analyze different chemicals. And the ion mobility component is just something you can add to the front of that mass spec as an extra dimension of analysis. It's a high throughput research technique, and I don't know how much I should go into this, but I basically end up using ion mobility and mass spec to right now my research focuses on separating lipid isomers and isomers. I'll just give the disclaimer for those of you that aren't science people. Isomers are just molecules that have the same mass but are different structurally. And because different slight changes in structure can create whole new properties that these chemicals are going to display. So that's kind of why I'm focusing on lipid isomers, but as a way to like target these lipid isomers for biomarker research for different diseases and stuff like that. Um, I don't know. You can take the reins back. I feel like that was rough.
No, like that was good. And like as someone who's like a very limited chemistry background, like that's like so cool to me. Like I love that. I am so bad at chemistry, but I love doing it. Like I
Yeah.
love like I feel like if I wasn't graded on chemistry and I just got to take chemistry classes and learn about it, I feel like I would like it a lot more.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I love the research, but I just choose to spend my time outside of it talking about other things because I spend so much time every week just like either reading papers, spending time writing up, or going through spreadsheets of data. Oh, but back to your original question, what would I like to do post like defense? Um, so I've juggled around with the idea of potentially going into academia, to maybe even have my own research group one day. That would be really cool. Again, I still am on the forensics train. I would love to work in maybe a crime lab or something. I mean, people within the field of chemistry, like even people that end up going into industry, they're always like marketing themselves. So they'll like spend a few years with one company and then market themselves to another company and they'll end up going there. Like I feel like there's quite a bit of like turnover, but that's great in a sense. But I also like teaching, and I really like what my advisor, Dr. Phillip, did with his career. He went into industry for so many years. And then he came back to teach at Hanover, which is a primarily undergraduate institution. And I don't think I could teach at a PUI necessarily, but I don't know. I wouldn't mind kind of following in those footsteps of maybe going out into industry for a few years and then maybe coming back to academia because I 100% value that transparency. And if I was ever to advise my own students, I would want to tell them, hey, this is what to expect if you go into this career, if you don't stay in academia or something like that. I just want to gain as much knowledge so that I can advise people in the best way possible.
I think that's so cool. Like I really think that one to me, like I feel like you would crush it no matter what you decide to do, but I think wanting to have that background and that knowledge to like you can be the best mentor advisor to all your students is amazing. So like like I know that that may not mean anything to you, but to me, like I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, with academia, there is a lot of politics involved, and I'm not a fan of that. So that is something that I'm a bit on the fence about. But in terms of like actually being able to like teach students and give them life advice on like chemistry as a career, like that would be very cool. But again, like you have to like, I don't know, join all these different like I listened to Tim Cunningham's episode. Like he was on all these different committees that he had to be on, and he like, didn't have too much wiggle room in terms of time to do other things because he had all these different responsibilities to the college that he had to fulfill. And I mean, I don't know. I'm not about the politics of administrations. But,
Agreed.
uh,
Like I
yeah.
feel like if the politics from administration was taken out, academia would still have its problems, but I feel like a significant amount of problems would be resolved.
Mhm. Oh yeah. I mean, and even my PI, like he's pretty high up. He's worked his way up at Vanderbilt, and he's so professional. Like he's such like I have a great work environment. The lab that I ended up joining, we all vibe really well together. There's no competitive atmosphere whatsoever. Because with analytical chemistry, you kind of all are in like, yeah, we're all doing eye mobility mass spectrometry research as our group, but we each have all these different projects that we're working on. So like we're actually very collaborative and are willing to like talk through problems with each other that we might be running into in terms of the research. And I mean, I must have just listened to the right advice throughout my life because I'm like looking back at all the decisions that I made to get here today, and I'm like, wow, I cannot believe that this has worked out how it has worked out. Like I'm very grateful for the advice that I've been given and that I've eventually taken, Um, yeah, it's crazy to look back on that.
I I'm kind of the same way that like in like very similar. Like my lab is so collaborative. Like we all work on these two species of sawflies because we all answer questions about evolution, but we're all doing such different things. And like my lab, like with the exception of me, is like just stacked with like these just amazing scientists who like I absolutely respect and look up to. And my PI, she's a fucking rock star. Like I respect the hell out of her, and like it's just such a good environment. And I'm just looking back, I was like, because getting here was rocky. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I just like passed some sort of like test or like whatever, because like where I'm at now, I'm just like, I can't believe how well this is going.
And for you to be in your position, Jacob, you are a great scientist. Like I do want to give you credit. Like I don't know if you don't hear it as much, but like you are for making it to where you're at. Like that's awesome.
Oh, thank you, Allison. I really appreciate that.
I'm a big words of affirmation girly that I've come to discover. So I want to be able to like kind of give back in that regard as well.
See what happens when your life doesn't revolve around your research. You discover yourself, people.
Yes,
Yeah,
100%. Oh my gosh.
yeah. All right. Allison, we're winding down here and running out of time, unfortunately. But there is one more question I want to ask you.
Mhm.
If you were to go back in time and give yourself one piece of professional or academic advice, what would you tell past Allison?
I would definitely go back to probably my sophomore year, Allison, sophomore year of college, Allison, when she was really struggling. Um, and I think I would say don't discredit the things that you're doing right now because you may not see it right now, but these things that you're doing matter and are so important. I mean, I could kind of give myself that advice right now too. Um, but I mean, don't be afraid to brag about yourself too. Like I've talked about how that's kind of like one of my challenging things, but like maybe if I just went back and was like, you will get through this point in your life. Like you can do it. I know it's going to be a rough year, but you're going to survive and then thrive after that year is over. Oh my gosh. If I could just reassure myself, um, I think that would have definitely helped my mental health a lot back then.
Agreed. And I think that's so important. Like, I know for me, just like where I was a year ago to now, like if I could just like reassure myself, like that would be so good. And I think you hit it on the head. It's very hard to when you're going through it, it's hard to see out of it. But then like
Mhm.
once you realize I'm so grateful that I kept going.
Yeah, because in that moment it just feels so polarizing.
Mhm.
Like what else is there to like look forward to? Because I know that every single day is going to be so tough. But I mean, just stay positive, surround yourself with like, oh my gosh, I freaking loved my sorority sisters, still do to this day. But they were like my support system that I could always turn to. And they were just always willing to listen. I could always be 100% myself around them, like not feel like I had to put up a front. And they like having them as a support system was what got me through that year 100%.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Allison, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking with me. I had such a blast. Is there anything you would like to give advice to our audience members before we sign off today?
Oh man. So the entire audience. It's weird. I've got to think like, okay, in terms of the entire audience, like I already do that with the science,
Yeah.
like who is my audience? Who am I speaking to? How do I have to tailor this?
Yeah.
Um, but in terms of the full audience, oh man, if you're struggling, you will get through whatever struggle it is. Like what you're doing is so important. Even though you may not be able to see that at the moment, this will definitely pay off in years to come. Um, so keep on pushing through, stay positive. If you have toxic people in your life, cut them out.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I had to do here, and I am so proud of myself for doing it. That's another story. But if you have people that you're surrounding yourself with, and you're like, oh, well, I don't feel great around these people either. So time to cut them off. New year, just sorry, that's a whole other tangent, but it needed to be said.
No, I'm glad you said that. And that along with the importance of finding work-life balance like you talked to, super important. And I'm so glad that like I feel like a lot of times too young scientists, young academics aren't encouraged to do that. And I'm so glad that you prioritize that for yourself. Like I'm just like, oh, yes, we love to see it.
Yeah, I literally like I have a few different friend groups that I've made here outside of the whole like science gig or the whole science realm in general. And I am so happy that I have those friend groups because like I'm in a freaking book club. Like like
That's
I
cool.
like we just read Brave New World last month and I'm like I'm starting to realize that like I'm getting back to loving reading again. Like oh my gosh, like take time to have a life outside of academia. Oh my gosh. Like it's that was just one of my little tangents, but like I found things that like you're find people that you can be your true self with. And uh, there's just so much coming to my mind at the moment.
Yeah. Uh, well, Allison, thank you again for coming and talking with us. I hope you had fun. I had a blast.
Oh, 100%. Oh my gosh. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad. And to those of you at home, don't choose peace, choose chaos. Have a good night, everybody. Bye.